From Mountain Home to Raft River, we've got all the District 4 analysis you'll need to know. This is the Magic Valley Prepcast with Scott Burton.
That's right. Welcome in. It's another edition of the Magic Valley Prepcast on IdahoSports.com, your weekly breakdown for everything District 4 in the state of Idaho. I know it's been a week or two, but Brandon Baney, glad to be joined by Scott Burton. Scott, you look like you're in spring break mode, my man.
I am in spring break mode. It took quite a bit to have me remember to get my butt down here to my office so I can shoot a podcast. So those are swear words over spring break. It's like I do nothing. Well, I wish I could say I do nothing, but
we know you do nothing pretty much when school's in session as well, Scott. So
yeah, spring break's no different. It's just extra nothing at this point.
That's right. So we took a spring break here on the podcast, and then I didn't time that up well because almost every school in the state of Idaho is on spring break this week, but they're still competing in athletics. So for us, it works out because there's plenty to talk about, especially on the baseball and softball side. Now, for listeners or viewers that may be new to the Magic Valley Prepcast, there's a couple of ways you can get this podcast each and every week. You can get the audio-only version at our website, IdahoSports.com. Right across the top of the homepage, there's a tab that says Prepcasts, little drop-down menu. It's got all of our podcasts on there. You click on Magic Valley Prepcast. You can listen to it there. You can also listen to it wherever you download your podcasts, Google, Spotify, etc. Video version at the IdahoSports.com YouTube channel and Facebook page. And Scott Burton is a broadcaster for IdahoSports.com, but also your day job, you're the athletic director at Jerome High School, which makes you a perfect expert on everything going on in the Magic Valley. Now, last week, or actually, I don't know if it was last week or the week before because we've been off for a couple of weeks, but Jerome High School had a pretty exciting announcement in terms of its softball facilities.
Yeah, this is something that Coach Huddleston has been working on. And, ever since, he and I got together a couple of years ago, his dream was to build a softball field here at Jerome High School because right now our softball team plays off campus and it's a huge inconvenience for the girls. And, I told him when I took over, I said, I'll do whatever I can to help you with this. But when you got a guy like Lyle, he does most all the work anyway. And so he got a hold of some people at Dick Sporting Goods. They got a hold of me, and so this whole thing started, and Lyle just kept after it. They came out, and they were going to, give the girls some batting helmets, some sports bras, some swag, some this, that, and brought a little camera crew with them and told everybody that, hey, we're just going to come and shoot a promotional video for you guys, and we're going to give you some swag, and it's going to be awesome. And nobody knew what was about to happen. And so they came the day before to practice and they messed around and took batting practice and brought the gloves. And, it was a lot of fun for them. And the girls absolutely loved it. And the next day we had a doubleheader, and it was our first games of the year. And luckily we won them both, which would have been, kind of awful for that day. And then as soon as the games were over, they got everybody together for a picture and handed Coach Hudd a card, and we were standing right there when he opened it up, and I was just kind of had my hand on his shoulder and was looking over his shoulder and seeing what was going on. And they had offered up $100,000 to the construction of a new softball field. And there's only 22 schools in the entire country that get that kind of grant from Dick Sporting Goods, and Jerome High School is one of them. And so we are going to try to break ground as soon as possible on building our new softball field here on campus. So it's been a really exciting time for Jerome High School, the softball program, Coach Huddleston and his girls, and all the work that he's done to really kind of help make this possible. So we are really, really excited.
Now, to get a grant like this, somebody has to apply for it. I know it wasn't you because you don't do anything. So was it Coach Huddleston?
I don't know.
Weird.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. So there are certain grants out there that we apply for. Coach Hudd is the one that found this one, and once you apply, they start a dialogue with you, and they start a dialogue with the athletic director. They start a dialogue with the head coach. They start this to kind of feel you out. And, they offer up what they can, but the more that they got to know us, and more specifically the girls and Coach Hud, they really liked the story. They loved the community of Jerome. They loved the whole one team, one town, one family, and they spent time here, and they just absolutely love the community. And they said, there is just no way that we cannot do this for you guys. You guys embody everything that we're trying to do here. Your struggles from not being on campus to having a community that is 100% behind you, to have, girls and players and turnout and I mean, everything just fell into place. And they said, there is no way we cannot do this. And so they did it. And it was awesome.
What a cool story. And, Dick's Sporting Goods, they're not a sponsor of this podcast, but they're getting the free plug here because last year, Idaho City, for the first time ever, decided to have baseball and softball programs. Normally, it had just been a track and field school in the spring. It's a little small 1A school over in the Treasure Valley. And they applied for a grant with Dick's Sporting Goods, kind of a similar deal. They called the local branch and they got them in touch with the regional guy, and they ended up getting $10,000 for all of that softball and baseball equipment that is needed to start up a program. So these are the things that, unless we talk about them, people don't know about. Dick's Sporting Goods and other companies like it do stuff like this every year. They set aside certain money to give back to local programs and local high schools. And I think it's great. So.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. And it really kind of, was a shot in the arm for the energy behind building this thing. Because we've had people out, we've got it designed, we've got it marked, we've got all these great ideas. But the funding, obviously, I mean, you can only have so many ideas without money. It doesn't matter. And schools and, athletic programs, or programs in particular, just don't get that kind of funding, And so anytime we get these kind of grants or, corporations or businesses that want to step up and help, there is always something to do. And the softball field here is just one of about 5 or 6 projects that I'm working on. So if anybody's out there and they've got corporate money and they want to help, reach out to me, and we'll make it happen. We'll get you a banner. We'll get you some season tickets. We'll do whatever. But schools need help like this. And it was so much fun.
Definitely. And if you have money left over after giving to Jerome High School, IdahoSports.com is always seeking those corporate sponsorships as well. So let's talk about Great Basin Conference softball, Scott. So on the website, IdahoSports.com, this has been our spring sports preview week. Monday, we did lacrosse. Tuesday was track and field. Wednesday, tennis. Thursday, baseball. Friday, we're going to wrap up with softball. I'm in between podcasts. I'm writing the softball preview. And Twin Falls was the defending conference champ. I sent a preseason questionnaire to their coach, Tanya Burke, and she said, we're kind of young this year. We lost some really impressive 4-year starters, and I think we're going to come around. But the door is open slightly for other teams like Mountain Home, Jerome, and Burley to possibly usurp Twin Falls at the top. Jerome's off to a nice start, as is Mountain Home, and Burley recently got a really nice non-conference win over Pocatello. It came on a walk-off hit from Noah Thurston.
Yeah, I mean, that was an exciting game, and the circumstances that surrounded that particular at-bat were a lot of fun, because Noah was playing the game, but she wasn't hitting. She was playing the field, and so she never, had an at-bat. And then, it got down to crunch time, and coach thought, hey, I think she can handle this. So they put her in the batter's box. They had the tying run at third, the winning run at second. And I'll be danged if she just didn't lace one to the wall in left center, scored both runs, and a walk-off for Noah in her first at-bat that game, because she wasn't hitting. She was just playing the field. And so it's really fun for Burley, because, Burley's one of those teams that just, I don't know, they just have not been strong in softball as of late. And hopefully, Coach Phelps can bring that back around. But they're pretty excited over there. And I guess, 2 massive losses to Pocatello last year. And to get something like this is really a breath of fresh air for a program that really needs some positivity, because they haven't been challenging in the Great Basin. It's always been Twin Falls, and then whoever comes in second. And but you hit on it. Twin is going to take a little bit to get it together. I mean, they're still the favorites because you're still the champ until somebody knocks you off. And Tanya Burke, who is a Jerome grad, by the way, grew up best friends with my sister, so I know underneath that blue and blue that she's still got the orange and black going on, and she'll deny it. But she's doing such a great job over there that it's always going to be Twin and then everybody else chasing. But you're right. I think the gap has shrunk just a little bit to open up the door for teams like Mountain Home, who had a really good year last year until Jerome beat them in the tournament. And then Jerome, with all their freshmen and sophomores from last year, are just now a year older. And so it's going to be an interesting Great Basin softball conference with, a couple, at least 3 teams challenging for those state positions.
Definitely. Burley, Bethany Phillips, first-year head coach. Last year, the Bobcats lost to Pocatello twice, both times by double digits. So to get a split with Pokey this year, very encouraging sign. And like you said, Noah Thurston started the game as the DP, the designated player, which is almost like the opposite of the DH, the designated hitter in baseball. It's a player that strictly plays defense and does not hit. And for a first-year coach to kind of trust your gut and say, you know what? I think Noah has the ability to come through with a hit. I'm very impressed by that right away too.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And when you're trying to establish a program, you've got to be a player's coach in a sense, and give the trust to your players. And then she did that with Noah, and Noah came through. So pretty exciting for Burley.
So we talked about, and again, a lot of these softball teams in the 4A ranks from the Magic Valley are over in Boise and the surrounding area this week for the WTP Spring Break Tournament, Win the Pitch Spring Break Tournament. So I'm sure we'll have lots to talk about next week from that spring break action. Moving over to baseball, Great Basin Conference, again, looks, pretty solid. Twin Falls, just like on the softball side, kind of the favorite in baseball. They've already had an early conference sweep of Jerome, and then a very exciting walk-off non-conference win over Valley View from District 3.
Yeah, Twin again in baseball and softball are just the front runners in the Great Basin. And, Twin baseball has been that way for a long time. It's really Twin 99% of the time in baseball, and everybody else fights for second. This year's Twin team, they've got a pitching staff that is pretty legit. They've got 3 lefties on that squad that can throw the baseball, and they've got a mixed bag of grade levels. So they've got youth, they've got experience, and that's a pretty good ingredient to have, because then it just kind of keeps cycling around year after year. You don't lose everybody right away. And so Twin's got some pretty interesting lineups this year with the mix of experience, because they're starting a sophomore and a freshman in a couple of really key positions. But they are a baseball town. They do really, really well. Coach Stadelmeyer does a fantastic job with them. But that Valley View game was really interesting because, you talk about walk-offs and a kind of a bunt walk-off, a drag bunt walk-off. It happened with 2 outs and the bases loaded. And that's not something that you plan for defensively, because that's the last thing on your mind. But at the same time, that's something that Twin works on, because Twin is one of the better teams in the state at small ball. They manufacture runs, because Twin's always been about pitching. Twin's always been about beating you 3-2, and manufacturing those runs when they get the opportunity, because they're not going to have those players, and really haven't in the past, that just stand up there and score 10 runs a game and smack the ball over the place. They do it with pitching, they do it with defense, and they do it with some small ball when they need it. Not to say they can't hit, but this was a great example. Bases loaded.
They were down, and they were down 8-7. So they were just looking for the tie, I'm sure. They ended up getting the winning run as well.
Yeah, and that, like I said, that's something they practiced. And Luke Moon was at the plate, executed a drag bunt perfectly, but everybody else was on the same page. I mean, Camden Boyd was over at third. He knew exactly what was going on, got the break from the bag. Second baseman Tarsione Ben never hesitated from second base. So in order to pull that off, everybody on the base paths have got to be on the same page, because with 2 outs, you just pick the slowest runner and throw them out. But everybody got the jump. Everybody was on the right page. And then Luke Moon just laid down a perfect bunt. And there you go. So not something you see every day, but when it comes to twin baseball, and I've seen them enough, it doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, of course, Matt Haar, longtime Twin Falls baseball coach, I think kind of laid the foundation that the current coaching staff is now just continuing, right? For Twin Falls.
I mean, Matt is a friend of mine. He's also legendary around here for everything that he's done in the coaching arena. But, when Tim Stadelmeyer took over at Twin, didn't miss a beat. They are rolling over there, and they've got a really good program.
Definitely. Well, speaking of good programs in the 3A baseball landscape in the Magic Valley, Kimberly comes into the season as the favorite in their District 4, but it's Filer with an early season win. They beat Kimberly last week, and not just beat them, but they beat them 11-5. And how about this for Filer? That was their first win over Kimberly in 4 years. That means this group of seniors, this is the first time they've ever beaten Kimberly. That's pretty incredible stuff.
Oh, it is. And you can't tell me that isn't kind of on the locker room board. It's just, hey, you haven't beaten these guys. And so when you think about it, that cycle of kids for 4 years, they don't know what it's like to ever beat Kimberly. Whether it's a freshman or a senior, it doesn't matter. I mean, that group has never done it before. So pretty, exciting for them, and especially early in the season, because now it gives you a little shot of confidence moving forward that, hey, we don't have to take a backseat to Kimberly anymore, because in that conference, I mean, Kimberly is the top dog, no pun intended, but they, in a lot of things, they are. And, for Filer to do this, showing the Cats can play with the dogs a little bit, so it'll be fun to see what this conference does, throughout the rest of the season.
And everybody plays each opponent 3 times in that conference. So the rematch will come in a doubleheader at Kimberly on April 20th. This will go 1 of 2 ways. Filer will continue their success, or maybe they poke the bear and Kimberly will come out very motivated. We'll see.
Yeah, and that's the thing with baseball. I mean, it really does just come down to pitching. If you have pitchers and you've got a staff that can throw, you're going to be in every single game. Then you don't have to out-hit people, because you have to out-hit people in high school baseball. Sometimes it does, well, in baseball in general, it just doesn't work. You've got to have pitching. So, to win in the long term, yeah, you need a pitcher, but to win in the long term, you need more than one pitcher. You need 2 or 3.
Definitely. And just like the softball teams, a lot of these 4A, a couple of 3A baseball teams are over in the Boise area this weekend for the Bucks Bags tournament, little spring break action. So again, I'm sure we'll have plenty to break down next week on the Magic Valley Prepcast, but that's how these spring sports podcasts are going to go, Scott. There's so much going on. There's track and field, boys and girls, track events, field events. There's golf, boys and girls. There's baseball, there's softball, there's tennis, boys and girls. There's just too much to cover in any one given week. So we're going to kind of just cherry pick a few interesting stories that stand out to us and talk about those in each and every week. But with that being said, I'd like to invite people that are listeners or viewers that if there's a player or a team or a story that isn't getting the coverage and attention it deserves, please send me an email, Brandon@IdahoSports.com, and we'll make sure we'll talk about it, because that's what this is all about, is promoting these athletes and these high school students.
Yeah, no question about it. And that's the funnest part about doing this, is we can talk about box scores till we're blue in the face, and so can everybody else, because they can read, but to get these stories, that is what makes these kids personal, and the whole sport personable to our audience, is because everybody's got a story, and these kids are more than just athletes and numbers and box scores, and that's the stuff we want to learn about. So yeah, you're right. If anybody knows stuff, man, get a hold of us, because we were happy to explore the story.
Definitely. I mean, prime example, that Burley softball story, right? You could just look and go, oh yeah, Noah Thurston, walk-off hit. That's pretty cool. But we give the context that she wasn't hitting in the game prior to that late at bat. And that adds more context and makes the story even better, I feel like. So that's what we're all about.
Absolutely. Keep them coming.
All right. Well, that was a good spring sports start. We'll be back next week with more of the tennis, track, golf, baseball, softball action, something. We'll throw a dart at the board and see what lands. Thank you for tuning into the Magic Valley Prepcast. For Scott Burton, I'm Brandon Baney. We'll see you next time on IdahoSports.com.